As the night falls and the darkness creeps in, the world around us changes. Shadows seem to grow longer and the silence becomes deafening. But what happens when the silence is broken by the sound of footsteps that don't belong to anyone you know? What happens when you hear a whisper in your ear but there's no one there? Welcome to our world of horror, where the unknown is the only certainty and fear is the only emotion. Brace yourself, because the journey we're about to take is not for the faint of heart. It was a typical evening at the college library when a group of 4 students stumbled upon an old book hidden in a dusty corner of the stacks. The students, all friends and avid readers, were immediately intrigued by the book's aged appearance and its ornate cover. As they examined the book, they noticed strange markings etched into the leather cover, which seemed to glow faintly in the dim light of the library. Despite their initial hesitation, the students could not resist the urge to open the book and explore its contents. As they flipped through the pages, the students were captivated by the detailed illustrations and strange symbols that seemed to dance across the paper. The text was written in an ancient language that none of them could decipher, but the words seemed to have a hypnotic effect on them, drawing them further into the book's world. Suddenly, a chill ran down the students' spines as they felt a presence behind them. They turned to see the librarian staring at them with a look of concern on her face. "What are you doing with that book?" she asked sharply. "We were just looking at it," replied one of the students, trying to hide their nervousness. "That book is not meant to be taken out of the stacks," scolded the librarian. "It's been locked away for years for a reason." The students returned the book to its shelf, but as they left the library, they couldn't shake the feeling that they had stumbled upon something dark and mysterious. As the night wore on, the students couldn't resist the urge to return to the library and investigate the book further. They sneaked back into the stacks and retrieved the book, taking it to a secluded study room to examine it in private. As they opened the book, they felt a strange energy emanating from its pages, like a cold breeze blowing through the room. They couldn't explain the feeling, but it was as if the book was alive and watching them. As they continued to read, they were suddenly engulfed in a blinding light, and everything around them began to spin. The students felt themselves being pulled into the book, as if it were a portal to another world. When the light faded, the students found themselves standing in the midst of a dark forest, with strange creatures lurking in the shadows. They had entered the cursed world of the old book, and they were not alone. The 4 college students were disoriented and frightened, surrounded by strange and eerie creatures that they had never seen before. The forest was dark and foreboding, with twisted trees and gnarled roots that seemed to reach out and grab at them. As they stood there, trying to make sense of their surroundings, a voice boomed out from the darkness. "Welcome, visitors," the voice said, its tone both mocking and sinister. "You have entered my world, and you will never leave." The students looked around in terror, trying to locate the source of the voice. They saw nothing but the twisted forest, and the creatures lurking in the shadows. The voice continued to taunt them, revealing itself to be the ruler of this cursed realm. It told them that they were trapped in this world until they completed a task, and that the price of failure was eternal imprisonment. The students were terrified but also confused. They had never heard of a book that could transport them to another world, let alone one with such dire consequences. As they searched for a way out of the forest, they encountered more of the strange creatures that inhabited the cursed world. There were ghoulish creatures with sharp teeth, spectral apparitions that seemed to glide through the trees, and twisted, malformed beasts that defied description. The students had to fight for their survival, using whatever means they could find to defend themselves. They found that the strange symbols in the books seemed to hold power over the creatures, and that they could use the symbols to ward them off. Despite their best efforts, the students soon realized that they were hopelessly lost. The forest seemed to shift and change around them, leading them in circles and dead ends. They were constantly pursued by the creatures of the cursed world, and they knew that they could not keep running forever. As the days turned into weeks, the students began to lose hope. They had found no way out of the cursed realm, and they had no idea what task they needed to complete to escape. They were trapped, and it seemed that there was no way out. But then, a glimmer of hope appeared on the horizon. The students stumbled upon a crumbling temple deep in the heart of the forest, and within it, they found a clue that might lead them to the way out. They saw that the temple was filled with ancient texts, and they realized that they could use the knowledge contained within to decipher the task that they needed to complete. They had a chance to escape the cursed world, but they knew that it would not be easy. As the students pored over the ancient texts in the crumbling temple, they slowly pieced together the task that they needed to complete to escape the cursed world of the old book. The task was simple, but it would require great sacrifice. They needed to find the source of the curse and destroy it. Only then would they be able to return to their own world. But finding the source of the curse was easier said than done. The students had no idea where to start, and they were constantly pursued by the strange and dangerous creatures of the cursed world. They knew that they needed to act fast, or else they would be trapped in this realm forever. They set out on a journey through the forest, searching for any clues that might lead them to the source of the curse. Their journey was fraught with danger, as they encountered all manner of terrifying creatures and deadly traps. They used their wits and the power of the symbols in the old book to defend themselves, but it was clear that they were outnumbered and outmatched. Despite the odds, the students pressed on, driven by a fierce determination to escape the cursed world. They refused to give up, no matter how impossible their task seemed. As they journeyed deeper into the forest, they began to notice strange patterns in the landscape. They saw that the trees seemed to twist and warp in a specific direction, and that the creatures in the area were more aggressive and dangerous. They realized that they were getting closer to the source of the curse, and that they needed to be more careful than ever before. They moved forward cautiously, using all of their skills and knowledge to avoid the dangers that lay ahead. Finally, after days of searching, they stumbled upon a massive stone structure hidden deep in the heart of the forest. It was a temple, unlike any they had ever seen before, with strange symbols etched into the walls and eerie chanting echoing through the halls. As they cautiously entered the temple, they realized that they had found the source of the curse. The temple was filled with ancient books and artifacts, each one containing a piece of the curse's power. They knew what they had to do. They had to destroy the books and artifacts, and sever the curse's hold on the cursed world. It was a risky plan, and they knew that it might not work. But they had no other choice. They set to work, destroying the ancient books and artifacts one by one, using the power of the symbols in the old book to break their curse. As they worked, the temple began to shake and tremble, and the creatures of the cursed world began to close in on them. But the students refused to back down. They fought with all of their strength, determined to succeed or die trying. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the last of the cursed artifacts was destroyed. The temple shook one final time, and then the curse was lifted. The students found themselves back in the library, surrounded by books and the familiar sounds of their own world. They had completed the task, and they had escaped the cursed world of the old book. But they knew that they would never forget their harrowing journey, and the curse that they had overcome. It had changed them forever, and they knew that they would never look at a book in the same way again. The students emerged from the cursed world of the old book, exhausted and traumatized by their harrowing experience. They had faced unimaginable dangers and horrors, and they knew that they would never forget what they had been through. As they stumbled out of the library, they were greeted by a group of concerned professors and librarians, who had been searching for them for days. The students were relieved to see familiar faces, but they were too shaken to speak coherently. The professors quickly took charge, leading the students to a quiet room where they could rest and recover from their ordeal. They were given food and water, and blankets to keep them warm. The students huddled together, trying to process what they had experienced. One of the professors, a kindly old man with a gentle voice, approached them and asked if they wanted to talk about what had happened. The students hesitated, unsure if they were ready to confront their trauma. But as the professor sat with them and listened patiently to their stories, the floodgates opened. The students poured out their hearts, recounting every detail of their journey through the cursed world. They spoke of the terrifying creatures they had encountered, the deadly traps they had narrowly avoided, and the constant fear and anxiety that had plagued them every step of the way. The professor listened with rapt attention, nodding sympathetically as the students spoke. He asked questions, trying to understand the nuances of their experiences, and he offered words of comfort and support when they faltered. As the night wore on, the students began to feel a sense of catharsis. They had been holding in their emotions for so long, trying to stay strong and brave in the face of unimaginable horrors. But now, with the professor's gentle guidance, they were finally able to let go and process their trauma. The next few days were a blur of counseling sessions, medical checkups, and debriefings with university officials. The students were given time off from classes and assignments, and they were encouraged to seek support from their friends and loved ones. Slowly but surely, they began to heal. The nightmares and flashbacks faded, replaced by a sense of cautious optimism. They knew that they would never forget what had happened in the cursed world of the old book, but they also knew that they had the strength and resilience to move forward. As the weeks and months passed, the students started to return to their normal routines. They went to classes, hung out with friends, and explored the world around them. But they also carried with them a newfound appreciation for the fragility of life, and a deep respect for the power of the unknown. They knew that they had been changed by their experience in the cursed world, and that they would never be the same. But they also knew that they had emerged stronger and more resilient than ever before, ready to face whatever challenges the world might throw at them. Months had passed since the students had returned from the cursed world of the old book. They had all moved on with their lives, but they knew that they would never forget what they had been through. One day, as the students were walking through campus, they noticed a small crowd gathered around the library. Curiosity piqued, they approached the group to see what was going on. To their horror, they saw that the library had caught fire, and the flames were spreading rapidly. Firefighters were on the scene, trying to contain the blaze, but it seemed as though the entire building was doomed. The students watched in horror as the flames consumed the library, destroying everything in their path. They could see the old book, the source of their curse, burning brightly in the midst of the inferno. As the library crumbled to the ground, the students realized that the curse had not been fully lifted. It had left a lasting legacy, one that would continue to haunt them for years to come. They knew that they had to do something, to try and stop the curse from spreading any further. They gathered together, determined to find a way to break the curse once and for all. For weeks, they researched and experimented, trying to find a way to destroy the cursed book. They consulted with experts in the field of supernatural phenomena, and even traveled to distant lands in search of answers. Finally, after many long months of research and experimentation, they discovered a way to destroy the cursed book. They gathered together, armed with their newfound knowledge, and set out to confront the curse once and for all. As they approached the site of the burned-out library, they felt a sense of trepidation. They knew that the curse was a powerful and unpredictable force, and that they were putting their lives on the line by attempting to destroy it. But they also knew that they had to try. They had to put an end to the legacy of the curse, and to ensure that no one else would ever have to suffer as they had. With a deep breath, they stepped forward and began to perform the ritual they had discovered. They chanted and danced, their voices rising in a crescendo of power and determination. And then, suddenly, there was a bright flash of light. The cursed book exploded, sending debris flying in all directions. The students were knocked back, stunned and disoriented. As they stumbled to their feet, they realized that the curse had been broken. They felt a sense of relief wash over them, knowing that they had finally put an end to the legacy of the cursed book. They looked around at each other, smiling through tears of joy and relief. They knew that they had been through a terrible ordeal, but that they had emerged stronger and more resilient than ever before. And as they walked away from the site of the burned-out library, they knew that they would never forget what they had been through. But they also knew that they had the power to overcome any challenge, no matter how difficult or terrifying.